got to bring up Sabu. Maybe the most famous person you manage. Well, there's Taz RVD as well, of course, but I was associated with Sabu mostly. And on my very show, weirdly, I seem to have caught like an exclusive. He pretty much said that he was done with wrestling. He had too many injuries. He had a recent hip replacement surgery, and he was done.
Yes.
With Sabu, just talk to me about Sabu as a person. Talk to me about Sabu as an influence on the generation that followed him.
Well, when I was in ECW and they put me with Taz, and then we got Taz over, and he didn't need me anymore, so he could be successful by himself. Paul Heyman thought it'd be a good idea to put me and Sabu together because he was a non-talker. I could do the promos for him and stuff, and it was a natural fit. And then once I told him the story, my first match, I made $90 for professional wrestling. It was his uncle, the Sheik, and Terry Funk in the chain match. He loved the story, and the Sheik stabbed me with a pin. I mean, a pencil, and I still got the lead mark in me today, 40 years later. So it was a natural fit for me and Sabu to be put together, and we worked great together. And then Van Dam was a part of that. And then the controversy with Van Dam being Mr. Monday Night, the whole effing show. And, we worked out perfect. Like, hey, I'm the whole show, and you too, Sabu. You know what I mean? And I'll be right in the middle doing my pro. So it worked out fabulously. We did some great promos.
Something about Sabu, he should have been an even bigger star. Really, he should have been. And he should have been, as other people have said, he should have been a millionaire by now, and he isn't. It's like, why do you think that hasn't happened?
Well, as time goes by and Sabu creates a big name for himself and becomes Mr. Hardcore, fire and tables and big bumps and this and that stuff nobody else was doing, and he created that spot for him. He was so beat up the first couple of years that I think that big offices where he's going to make big money, like WCW and WWF, didn't want to take the risk factor. Sabu's a high risk. His body's already burned out. So they didn't want to invest, $1 million in Sabu because, no telling it can go through day one to be his last match. So he was his own worst enemy by accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I spoke to Sabu, whenever it was, a couple of months ago, a month ago, I got the feeling that he was somewhat stubborn to his own vision of what wrestling should be. Like, he liked the hardcore. He could wrestle. He could wrestle, catch as catch can, and chain wrestling and everything. But
he could do it all, yes.
Yeah, but am I right in saying that maybe he was too stubborn in his vision of just wanting to do hardcore, especially in the big companies?
Right, you're right about that 100%. You nail on the head. You hit it right. Boom. It was his own worst enemy.
Yeah. Do you think he should have learned how to do interviews?
Well, it could have helped, but he didn't because it made him mysterious. And it was a good part for me to take his place and do the interviews for him. So there were several wrestlers that did that, didn't speak much. They had a manager that spoke for them.
The Sheik. The Sheik didn't speak, did he?
Yeah. Nope. I don't think I've ever heard the Sheik speak. So it worked out to, made him mysterious, and he didn't need to learn how to do promos because of his gimmick, Mm-hmm. If he was going to go to WWF and be a single and be like everybody else, yes. But he didn't need an ECW. And made him more mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. So the only problem is that Vince McMahon doesn't like managers, and therefore,
right.
With Sabu as well. Just talk about how important he is in sort of like the in wrestling history. Let's say. I mean, how does he get the plaudits he deserves?
Well, I think he gets a lot of it, but I think he is left out sometimes because the tables and hardcore violence and ECW style, everybody started doing it after a while. And he was kind of the innovator of that hardcore violence, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he did. He doesn't get enough credit today. And I think that's a shame because Sabu is a bigger name than we give him. You know what I mean? Sabu was one of the first, and then it carried on. They're still doing it today. I was watching AEW, the new company that Dusty's kids run, and they're out of Jacksonville. And I just seen somebody go through a flaming table on there. So where did they get that from? From us,
Exactly.
You know.
One more thing with Sabu, and you can't mention Sabu without the injuries that he caused himself. How long did it take for you to realise that maybe you should carry some tape and some crazy glue in your pockets just in case?
Well, that match he had with Terry Funk in the Bob Wire match, which is a great example. He would get hurt all the time and do crazy stuff and somehow get through it. But that match with Terry Funk and the Bob Wire match, what happened was the guys who set up the ring, there's like 3 or 4 different strands of Bob Wire. One strand is small, and the next strand is bigger to keep the bigger cattle, and the next one is the bigger prongs. So the ring guy who set up the Bob Wire match bought the wrong kind of Bob Wire. He bought the strongest, biggest, most vicious Bob Wire, and he had to put it up, and it's too late to take it down. We're in the middle of getting ready to start the match, and he said, "Oh my God, I bought instead of buying the small one." So Terry Funk has the match with Sabu, and they get into it, and Sabu throws him in a turnbuckle, and he moves, and Sabu comes in a turnbuckle and rips his bicep from here all the way down to his elbow, and it was like an inch wide. His meat was hanging out. When that happened, he went into shock for a minute. He says, oh, went into shock. Like, you've seen your whole fucking stuff hanging out. So he went into shock, and he yells, Fonzie, give me some tape. So I ran back to the dressing room and grabbed some white tape. That's the only thing I could find. And I bring it out to him. And by now he's out of shock, continue on the match. And you'll see him during the match putting the tape around his around his wound. And Terry Funk gave him a reverse neck breaker onto a steel chair. It was fucking fabulous. He's doing the tape as a reverse neck breaker. Boom. So after the match and everything, we had to cut him out of the Bob Wire and Bob Wire in his hair and stuff. And so the paramedics are back there, and we have a doctor on hand. And he says, "Okay, doc, stitch me up." He says, "Oh, you need to go to the hospital." He says, "No, stitch me up right here. No anesthesia, no nothing." So he starts stitching him. First of all, I had a hard time getting the tape off. So when he starts stitching him up, he was in so much pain that he said, "Okay, stop. So Fonzie, go to 7-Eleven and give me some super glue." Now they have medical super glue that is used, but back in 95, they were developing the super glue for the cuts. So I went to the 7-Eleven and bought some actual super glue full of toxics and stuff, and he finished after like 40 or 50 stitches. He put the rest super glue and closed it up. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen, but it worked. And, that's a famous match.
How did he not it probably must have got really infected. With that ring as well.
He made it through. And if you look at it today, you'll see that big ass scar, and for some reason, God was on his side and got him through it, and he didn't get any toxicity from the petroleum in the, in the super glue.